Hi, this is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots in Genealogy, and I'm here with an old friend, although we've never talked in person, Alessandro Movino from Bella Italia Genealogy. So welcome, Alessandro. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much to you, Bob, for finally having me here. I should just say finally, because of course I've dragged you forever to have me, but it's an honor to be here today. So thank you so much.
There's a lot of things to talk about, but as we know, you did some research for me, and I have to tell you something very interesting that I never told you before.
Sure.
I originally asked you to try and research the Sorrentino family, and you gave me a dump of a lot of Piomalo and Crocolo that I had never known, and that prompted me to get some more things on my own, and it also confirmed a lot of what I thought I knew, but I wasn't 100% sure. I guess it took quite some time before I got the dump of the Sorrentino family, and what I have to tell you is that my cousin Louisa, who is a Sorrentino cousin, although her name was Di Maria, her mother was a Sorrentino, she passed away the day before you sent me that data dump.
Is that right? Oh, that's so scary. I've never.
Isn't that crazy?
Story. It is crazy. It's giving me goosebumps right now. I'm chilling. Oh my God. Wait a second. So is this something like gonna make me feel bad because maybe you were supposing to send us off to her before her passing away?
No,
sorry
not really. Because she was my go-to person because she lived with my grandparents. My Sorrentino grandfather and my Piomalo grandmother.
Sure.
And when I first found the record for Nicola Piomalo, I had never heard the name Crocolo before.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I had no idea who my great-grandmother was. And so I went to Louisa and I said, "Do you know this name?" And she said, "Of course, that's Nanny's mother." And I said, "Did you know how connected this family is?" And she had no idea. It was never talked about in the family. I had no idea. The only thing I knew at the time was that my great-grandfather, Piomalo, was, a count of sorts or something like that because we had his card. I had no idea how far that family went back, and definitely had no idea about Amelia Crocolo, who was connected to the princes of Avellino and the princes
indeed, it's a big name, and the fact that, I definitely was prompted myself to find more as you actually had been one of the first only cases I had been given the honor to look into a noble family. It's all about nobility after all. And the Piomalos were just tied up to one of the Crocolo mainstream lines down there in Naples. But I mean, I'm just now finding this very interesting, at least that Luisa could help you attain the connection even before she died. And whatever I was able, then I understand that whatever I was able to find out, at least prompted you to ask her, and at least in a sense, you got in the first circle there, which is, I'm very happy to hear this story. Oh my gosh, thank you for keeping this story before you could tell me until today. And we're live on the show. I can ask for anything better. It's insane.
Well, that's kind of why I waited, because it was just a, I've talked about this before. There's a lot of things that I hear, coincidences, but there's so many things that happen. You see behind me that coat of arms for Amelia's father, Filippo, and he married Elisa Moore from Switzerland.
Right.
And I had no idea.
Oh, he's from Switzerland, not from Austria. I thought she was from Austria, though.
No, she was born in Lucerne.
Okay. Got it.
And her father, her father was he was a captain in the Swiss Guards assigned to Naples, and Filippo was a lieutenant in the Neapolitan cavalry. So one has to think that her father knew him, and he met the daughter, and they wound up getting married. But the shield behind me, I got from somebody. I researched her family through this link that I got for Switzerland, and they said send us questions in English English,
Awesome.
Italian, or German, and we'll answer you. So I said, well, my great grandmother was great great grandmother was Elisa Moore. Do you have anything about that? And they gave me a dump of all the prominent Lucerne families back to the
Oh
1300s.
man. Oh
And then
wow.
there's another
Uh,
family, Amrine, and I contacted this guy, and he sent me that. And he said, this is in an annex somewhere, some annex in Switzerland with the two
wow.
family names.
Oh my
So
God.
so one has to think that at one point they went back to Lucerne. She took him to Lucerne or whatever. I have no idea.
Sure.
Um,
Right, right.
but it was pretty interesting. But um,
And you're telling me you had no idea at all about all these details. Like there was no family lore ever passed
no,
down
no,
or anything that you could. Wow.
no.
Well,
The
I'm
only
honored
the only
and
thing the only thing I knew the only thing I knew is I had my great grandfather's card. And that was kind of got me started. And then when I started talking to my cousin Louisa, she told me that my grandmother used to tell her or tell them that her cousin was the princess, and they just thought she was she was losing it.
of course.
But again, it was my father never talked about it. My grandmother died when I was like 12, and she spoke mostly Italian, and I never thought to ask these questions.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but let's talk about Bella Italia a little bit and what you do for people
Thank
and
you.
how you connect people.
Of course. Well, actually, what you just shared here is a story, and I definitely wanted to take a minute or two and actually even more, just like you did. I want to, of course, to share here with whoever's watching this now, even you and I with each other, the fact that you definitely have been part of the start of a challenging mission, although I should just not call it challenging, just because the fact that it keeps growing and growing at a fast pace and rate even more every year. That's what actually makes it challenging. But you were there to start. So starting from your experience with me actually leads me to explain a little bit more what we've been perusing and pursuing ever since that time. Because it must have well been what, like 3-4 years ago that we met.
Probably
Um,
4. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And I remember actually you came now. Here's going to be a story I never told you, but you kind of hit my email or mailbox in a very lucky time. And you really hit the jackpot, I should say, because I had just been granted access to the Naples City Hall archives back in those years. So prior to you contacting us, there was no access at all. And Naples itself is a perfect example of what I want to disclose here for whoever is going to watch this, to understand and kind of give the understanding of what Bella Italia does and is proud to do every day, which is all summarized, I should say, or recapped in our slogan called "Your Roots on the Ground Experience." It's not just because we love military, whoever serves the army that we choose that slogan, but because of course it's taken out of the boots on the ground expression. But it's sort of like military goes boots on the ground. We are here to help you attain your knowledge and family history as close enough as possible you can get to the source records. And that's what exactly Bella Italia aims to doing. It aims at checking your records and your family history down at the source. So we get out of business going to the actual repositories. I know it sounds like rhetorical or sort of like simple in a sense, like going to the records. Oh wow, what's fancy about it? Well, if you see a recall, and of course it's not recalling, but it's more like knowing. And now, of course, you're one of my perfect favorite gurus out there in genealogy, and you've acquired so much knowledge ever since we met, and I really congratulate you on that. But Family Search has done a massive amount of work, and it's been doing so for a century now. But see, I was using the Naples and your research example just as such to explain that Naples, for instance, it's a big barrier. It is a big brick wall that a lot of people will face at one point. Just let me do a disclaimer, though. A lot of people think their family must have been from Naples, the city, just because their family members passed through the port. I mean, everybody's still from Naples, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody from the south, and we all Southerners. We're not going to tell the Northerners that we're better Italians, but it's okay. That's another discussion. But Southern people, I'm just kidding. I love other Italians. Anyways, from Naples, everybody sailed off. Now, Naples luckily enough, has only a portion of importance among all the records I've been asked to access for my clients. What I'm trying to say is Naples is going to be far from being scanned from any organization, well, Family Search or MyHeritage, all of these big guys, unless there's going to be a direct involvement or some interest from the government itself. I'm saying this because of the perfect lack of organization that some archives have. I know I'm definitely derailing here, so please cut me off. We're both Italians. All Italians cut each other's off in the discussion, so please go ahead. But one more bit I want to say is so that I can explain what all we do and how Bella Italia tries to take action here for you and for all is indeed to bypass those tough moments when you realize you have the brick wall. And brick wall is always going to be there just for one reason. And here's what I want to say. Italy has no genealogy interest, I should say. I'm very sorry to say this because it sounds like a big bummer. It sounds like a big disaster, all those listening to this, but it's so true that apart from some academic organizations like Yaji, or I know a lot of them, right? So, and I really shake the hands on, on what they've done and all that they've accomplished. But most of what we have genealogy-wise in this country is sort of felt as though it's more nobility related. And most people think genealogy is just for those who have knights and chivalry or princes or, whatever other, counts or dudes you may have heard of your family. That's how you do family history. That's why you should. People think it's a coat of arms. People think it's heraldry more than checking your father's family histories back in time. That's the thing that we face every day. Every day we're confronted with a lack of knowledge about what we do and how we want to do it and why we want to access these records. And that's exactly what we try to facilitate for our clients.
Well, yeah, and and that's why I contacted you, because I was checking the Antonati for years, and I couldn't find the Sorrentino. I couldn't find Achille Sorrentino. I knew that had to be my great grandfather's name because my oldest uncle was Achille, so it had to be, and my father was Nicola, named after the paternal grandfather. So I knew that had to be his name. I couldn't find it anywhere. And I had no idea that he was a lawyer and that he came from Nocera Superior. I always thought they just came from Naples. Interestingly enough, since we talked, I was checking the records in New Jersey newspapers. About a year ago, they gave free access for a week or something like that. And I found the obituary of Giulia Princi, Achille Sorrentino's wife, and it said in there that now I'm sure it was an honorary title, but because it listed him as Marquis Achille Sorrentino, who was a Supreme Court justice in Naples. Now I haven't been able to confirm that. Right. I only have this little newspaper article saying that.
All right.
But
that's a start.
It was very interesting because, again, I had no idea that he was a lawyer until you sent me the record, and I had certainly had no idea that he was theoretically a Supreme Court justice in there.
Amazing, yeah. There's always other records out there. I mean, we definitely get this topic right here. I definitely didn't want to cut you off, but just so I tell, here's the other hint of what we do, and it's not just about BMD records or birth, marriage, and death, but we also try to attain other facts in your family history, as in notary records like dowry arrangements or wills and testaments and any kinds of even land records. For instance, like last week I was in Calabria, which I may see, like you might have noticed for some postings on our Bella pages on Facebook and Instagram. But I was actually asked to find out about wills and lands being passed down to generations. This client has just recently found out that she can claim a piece of land. And for how good it is for her, it's also, though, another reason why I need to be very cautious in all the kinds of dealings I have with towns, as clerks may be very attentive to situations like, oh, Americans are coming back and claiming their land. We don't want their properties to be claimed again. this is the kind of background you have as you get, especially when I'm asked, and you may ask me this question, but for instance, I was talking about prior to this recording, Trace's history or story that she shared on the Casaluni trip, which I thank her a lot for mentioning my name. But Tracy, for instance, went to Casaluni. We had a great time. We found her family. Luckily enough, nobody asked, why is she coming? Is she coming here to land? A lot of people will ask that. A lot of people will not understand, or most people will not understand or grasp the meaning of the stores or why ever you guys cared. It's been more than 100 years ago, you know? Well, anyway, I'm still digressing, of course, but I'm just literally just adding a little more pieces to the puzzle of what I have here to fight with sometimes, but work with every day and be happy about it.
My wife keeps asking me, okay, so which castle are we getting?
Right. Well, it makes sense.
Because again, some of the things I found. But to your point, I did the free consultation with Family Search, as doing it, as a podcast interview than anything else. And they came across the will of Gaspare de Riso, and Gaspare, he was the uncle of I guess my fourth great grandmother. Fourth or fifth, Marie Angela de Riso, who inherited, surprisingly enough, she inherited the de Riso wealth because there were no male heirs. And Gaspare said in his will that he would only leave the property to somebody named de Riso.
Oh, look at that. That's like she got the jackpot there.
Right. And just around the same time, there was some law passed in Italy allowing for the females to pick it up.
I had no idea.
But eventually she lost all the wealth when Napoleon came to Italy. And she wound up in Paris, of all places.
Wow.
And she lost Capricotta, which eventually I think came back.
Sure.
And I'm hoping we canceled the trip to Italy twice. I'm hoping we're going to get there in May because they're going to bring us to the town hall, which was the family palazzo, back then.
Right.
So.
Right. Believe it or not, I've heard part of this story already from our mutual friend. I really want to mention her name here because I really think she deserves a lot of credit. I'm sure you may have interviewed her or not. I don't remember, but Letizia Sinisi.
Yes.
She's been fantastic, dealing with you, and pretty much she's the person that felt I sort of passed down the responsibility of continuing your family history while I was just getting busier here. And I really apologize for that, but I'm very happy that you, and sure as you are in good hands there. And so, believe it or not, though, she contacted me because she still wanted for me to have some be part of something in your big tour of southern Italy. So maybe whenever you're coming here, I'll be honored to meet you in person and maybe be around with you there too. So
yeah, no, definitely. Awesome. And Letizia, like you said, she's been great. She's made a couple of trips to Naples to meet with my cousin Cinzia, who's nice. Been fabulous too. Because Cinzia, she created a Facebook page, Pirmalo, thinking that she was going to find maybe relatives in Spain or South America. She had no idea that she had an American cousin.
Wow.
So, and I was out there just, on Facebook, because Pirmalo is not a common name. Only the family has that name in Italy, right?
That's right.
So, when I contacted...
In other words, I'm sorry just to say, but people need to know, some names like Pirmalo do indeed lead to the only branch that's available there. And that's about a nobility that you guys belong to. Sometimes it may be easy that you can mix yourself up with a famous name, although just because it's part of your family, you assume it's related to that nobility branch, but it's indeed not. And that's still where genealogy comes in place and helps you out. But in your case, Pirmalo, there's no exception. I mean, there's no need to doubt.
And again, between you and Cinzia, when I started, saying to her, well, who's this person? And that's my great-great-grandfather. We were able to trace back to Count Giacomo and all of that. And she's been fabulous. And in fact, I had one of my, grandparents' children. I thought his name was Erico, but it was Enrico. And with Cincia's help, I have found that I have a second cousin from Enrico.
Oh,
Just
wow.
recently, just within the last, just in the last couple of the last 2 months, we
that's
pieced it all
nice.
together. And
Wow.
I was friends on Facebook with Roberto's son, Nicola, right? Because you know how those lines work.
Sure.
And we kept trying to put it together, and there was a Giovanni, and I thought maybe, and he said, no, my great grandfather was Enrico, grandfather.
That's not
actually.
too far. So
No,
close. That's
no,
like
I never
Yeah.
knew, and
That's
it's
a better finding.
and it's funny because Nicola was the grandfather, right?
Right.
My father was named after him, Nicholas. Roberto's father was Nicola. They were born 3 years apart. Probably never knew each other existed,
Wow.
right?
Huh.
My name is Robert. His name is Roberto.
Oh, wow.
We were born
Yeah,
7
we
years
just
apart.
talked about it. That's right.
We were born 7 years apart, and there's no rhyme or reason why I should be Robert and he should be Roberto, because they just picked those names, as far as I know.
Right.
He has a son, Nicola, and I have a daughter, Nicole, and my sister has a son, Nicholas.
Oh, jeez. That's the best story here for the day. It's amazing.
Isn't that wild?
insane. But you haven't just found him via DNA. I mean, that's not a DNA connection, right? It's just because
Italians don't do DNA.
No, it's right. Yeah, that's the other thing.
I'm going to bring I want to bring a couple of kits with me when I come, and give one to Cincia, maybe one to Roberto, and take it from there.
Believe it or not, I'm starting something there. I mean, I took my own test twice on two different companies, and of course, please, guys, do update your data on GenMatch. Every single test company should be on GenMatch. GenMatch is, I'm pretty sure you know that, but it's a mutual, shareable, spot on the internet that you guys can just upload your data, and it's going to be connected to the others that you may not even know are your cousins. And just because they took a test on other companies doesn't mean they're not your cousins. But yeah, Italy has not such. Again, we're still talking about the same stuff here. Italy has no such a knowledge or. I shouldn't, of course now my Italian thinking just comes in the way. So I'm just struggling now finding the right words, but it's not a demanded hobby, if I should say, or it's not something that indeed is a hobby. I mean, people do it. People want to find out about their origins, but it's not such a popular thing to do, not even to the extent where DNA testing may be widely known around. And of course, it's understandable if one thing looks at the society and how we are all made up and tangled. First of all, we're just a young country. We've been up for 61 years, 2021, right? So, but people have not much interest in finding that their family were just from the village right next door to the other place that they had been born. And, myself, Bovinos, are only from Palpisi, about 20 miles away from Benevento, where I'm based out of. So it's really not going any further, and it's just always been there. It's a little boring if you think about it, but it definitely is not if you're a history geek and you want to explore at least old records. I'm going to share one thing with you, for instance, the genealogy love I have, which of course you can't run a business without a love for this field, right? You can't do this without a passion. And my passion arose at the time that I was trying to find my family in the U.S. I had no idea that we had a great uncle. Well, my father's uncle, who will be, of course, my great uncle, my grandmother's firstborn brother in the family, who was the only one that everybody knew had moved out. And so I just recall I had no idea what ancestry was. So I'm just telling this story to you so you understand what average Italian I had been until genealogy hit. And I got a bug, right? I had got the bug at that point. I was not even aware. But Italians don't know ancestry. I have no idea about what it is. And My Heritage is the only company that is now promoting DNA tests on our TVs. I've seen some TV ads with that company promoting DNA kits, and I'm so happy. But yeah, so I ended up getting a joke at the age of 22, 23 that I was really getting involved, and I was enhancing my skills. I had no idea how to research. Nothing. Nobody has taught me. I mean, I've just found stuff myself. There was no antenna. It's a world that antenna was not even a thing. There was only tutto genealogia.it. It was the only website available besides Italian genealogy.com, which was the sort of the opponent, or not the corresponding American website.
Right.
Nevertheless, I remember that I got a joke where girls were around me, and of course I always like girls, but it's just that I was focused on genealogy so much, and my friend said, I think you love dust smell better than your smell. So, well, and that is kind of an iconic thing. Now, of course, I got a nice, sweet girlfriend right by my side, and she has to stick with my love for the books and for old stuff. She's now getting involved as well. It's either leave it or take it. People don't get what genealogy is all about, and they don't actually get the meaning of going crazy and making links and connections among all family members in your tree.
And that's like in my family. There's one or two once I'll publish something or and they say, oh, that's interesting. Most of them could care less. They're just not interested in, unless I find something really, really
that's
funny.
Right.
So I have to ask you, what kind of things have you uncovered for people that just blew you away or blew them away?
We'll be right back.
Experience Italy like never before, traveling with a scheduled group or create your own bespoke tour with friends with philitaly.com. Pack your bags and follow Phil. That's www.philitaly.co.
Well, I wish he had asked me this question prior to the recording, because now I can think about it a little bit. I hope I'm not going to bore anybody. Of course, I digress and talk a lot that I never do, but and of course, you can always talk while I think. But there's plenty. There's a lot of stories. Okay, I'm just thinking now, for instance, ciao, Diana. I'm saying hi to you. Diana Oliveri. She and her family came here for another portion of our services that we are actually getting very popular for, and that's about dual citizenship and assistance with having people apply either remotely, meaning in the US, remotely for us, as we're going to be sitting here in the office, and people apply either at the consulate. Well, good luck with that, because getting an appointment these days, especially in COVID times, is easy, and it's not easy at all. But I can discuss with you later if you want. But she was here for the other part of the service we do in citizenship, which is offering an apartment for people to stay as long as the process takes and such that the citizenship will be granted. And there's a whole world of details there. But the best part about her stay here is that she also wanted to take a week off of her time here and spend it touring 6 towns that she knew were part of her family history. Well, I turned out to find 4 more or something. I can't just recall, but there was actually 4 more that we didn't end up perusing and checking stuff out, because of course I was only able to find out about those when looking into records in preparation of that tour. But one thing that really blew me away was that we ended in one of her third one's removed cousin's house or apartment in La Bello, Potenza. And this lady, well, the lady was the wife of the guy, but anyway, the cousin still had the mirror where Diana's it's getting complicated now, great grandfather's first or second cousin had in his shop in the early 1800s as a barber.
Wow.
So the mirror was still there. And I do remember vividly that we had a professional photographer along with our tours, because we also could take moments and pictures and members of your tours. He took an amazing photo of her, mirroring herself in this mirror back from 200 and more years ago. This is one of the things that genealogy can do. Another thing now comes back to my memory, and again, hello, the other client, Bob, just like you, Bob D'Angelo from Woodbury, Connecticut. That was one of the first times I was taking somebody on a tour. It was even prior. I think it's actually prior to Bella existence, because Bella's been on for 5.5 years now. And I've been in the genealogy field for well over 10 years. But I was freelancing and I was just helping other companies. So for this company, I was doing Bob's tour in Piedimonte Matese, Caserta, and which was once called Piedimonte d'Alife for anybody who doesn't know. But Well, long story short, we in a part of the tour I had not predicted. A lady comes out on the alley and asks, was actually wondering who these guys were. And this is one of the things I hate the most. When I on the streets in Italy and I got to talk to clients on the phone, sending voicemails or WhatsApp to my project coordinator, Jeanette, or Justin, my US manager that we have in Connecticut as well. Well, I speak English on the street and people just turn around at me and, wonder who the alien is that's talking this alien language. But so the lady did the same thing when we were on a tour. And she came up with a huge key in her hands, like as though she had done it on purpose, but there's no purpose thing. She just brought this key out of her pocket. I had no idea where it came out of her pants or skirt. And she took us to church that I had no idea existed because it was not a parish church. It was just a little chapel church, if you will. No chapels like Vegas has, but a chapel. And St. Lucy's. Well, remember this, the Lucy thing goes, St. Lucy is the protector of sight, for your eyes and all. For those who believe, you hail St. Lucy for that you can protect your eyes. Well, sure thing, there were ex votos. I'm not sure how you guys call it in English, but ex votos is sort of a piece of metal made or wood made item, or I shouldn't say souvenir, but it's more of like a commemorating piece of, I of course now struggling, but something that you do to worship the saint in favor of, for the favors that he or she gave, for whatever miracle that you believe he or she made happen for you. Well, sure indeed, there were tons of these pieces and items and objects at the feet of St. Lucy's statue. That's why I'm really focusing on this St. Lucy, because it was all about eyes, pieces of eyes, nice carved in stone or metal. Well, the first and only one that a client picked up from the feet of the statue was metal made. And the story goes, the tradition goes, well, actually the lady said, you got to approach it to your eyes, just kind of hiding your eyes, and have whoever's taking a picture, being your picture taker, just take a shot. And so you can protect yourself from that moment. It's kind of a traditional thing. Sure thing it did. Bob then, after the picture was taken, I still remember this, God, of course, for those who listen to this, not watching, it's going to be not good, but I'm going to just show this on video. God this off his eyes and shouted in the middle of the chapel, what's going on? And he goes, you won't believe this. His great grandparents' names were on it. He had picked up among all the others. He had picked up a metal-made ex voto that his great grandparent had sent off to Italy from America, Connecticut, because what they wanted to do is, you guys sell this item and you make money to repair the church. That was the whole thing. But I never knew there was never, fused. It was never melted down to make money or whatever. It was just, dropped there at a statue. After 100 or more years, the same part, a member of that same family came back and picked it up just by chance. I mean, there's no purposeful surprise. It was a whole thing that was meant to happen. It was crazy. It was crazy.
These things aren't accidents. I mean, I just interviewed somebody who's similar thing. He had bought a cross somewhere in the South, and he went to the church in the family town, the hometown, and small little town, tiny little town, and he got to go. Same thing. Got to go into the rectory.
Yeah.
And the priest behind him had the same exact cross.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
And he said, I have this cross. And the priest said, it's not an accident. God brought you here.
Oh, my gosh.
I believe
that.
Well, that's what I say. I interviewed somebody one of the first interviews I did, who was like a spiritual type of person. And she said, sure, they want to be found.
That's right.
They want to be found. Yeah. These things aren't accidental.
Right. Another time, just you're bringing me to memory that sometimes I accidentally, not even just sometimes, not most of the times, but a few times, I've happened to open a book up, and that memory record I was looking for in the middle of the 1700s was right before my eyes. I just opened the book. Of course, it could be a piece of coincidence or chance, but what are the odds? I mean, it's just the case that sometimes you find stuff, not because you're looking for it, but because you're trying to look for it. You're not even thinking you want to look for it, and it's right there. It's just the genealogy magic, I call it every time. My US manager says, I'm the manager, first of all. I mean, I'm talking about, he's the manager of the US branch office, but is our representative there. And he believes a lot in DNA, and he knows DNA never lies, and he calls that DNA magic. For me, being here, lucky enough to do this job and take my clients or hold my clients' hands and everybody's hands to the source records is really what I will call magic. Anything that you can find from the real source, these are all makes and your experience a rich, full one in family history, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I had found my cousin Linda. She was researching Maria Piromallo in America, and the only two Piromallos that came to America, her great grandmother and my grandmother, who was her niece. And
sure.
She contacted me through Ancestry and said, I think we're researching the same person. Do you think we're related? And I said, yeah, we're definitely related because there's only one Piromallo. And she did the DNA test, and it originally came back on her side that we weren't a match. And I looked on my side and it was a match. And anyway, she contacted them and they fixed it out. But when I finally got to meet her, our families in America were so connected through the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. Again, I had no idea until, I found Linda. Her grandmother had, because her aunt worked in my grandfather's shop in New York City. They made bridal crowns and veils and stuff.
Oh, nice.
She brought beads from my grandfather's shop and gave my sister and my cousin and me, a little package of beads from my grandfather's shop from the 1930s, 40s, whenever it was. And I had who saves stuff like that? But it's I have it. It's just like, just something that connects you back to another era. Great. And that's what 99% of the people just don't get,
That's right.
When you do this, you're connected back to the past. You find out who you are and who you were,
It's exactly the purpose of what we do in tours, and among all the services I provide and our company provides, I do love touring, not just because I travel, I get to explore. Actually, that's number one thing for me. I mean, besides the history love and all, but I do get to explore areas in my country that I don't even care about. I mean, I will never care about it if it were not for the job. And now I care a lot about it. And of course, I think villages and towns, small towns have huge potential in genealogy tourism, if you want to call it that way. Mm-hmm. If only these towns understood, even Italian towns themselves understood. I'm daydreaming and wildly dreaming of a day that all these little towns will gather and offer something government propelled or government provided or financed, if you will, or funded, such that those descendants from those towns are going to be welcomed in and warmly, not because they're not welcome, but it's just that there's no setting or no setup arrangement. There's no such a thing like, let's call the descendants up from Montecorvino Rovella, or I'm just, throwing names out there, Picena, or whatever small town exists is actually losing in population. There's a huge drop of people. And, I call this the third wave of immigration. The third wave after the first one occurred when most Americans have their ancestors coming from, so end of 1800s, early 1900s. The second one after World War II, where most people, yes, they did go to America, but a lot of others went to Australia and Canada. And those are not even our clients yet. We're getting a few interests from there. But see, it's like Italians as well, because us here in the country, we don't care just as much as Australians, most Canadians and Australians don't, because their connections are still there. It's when you lose the tie, it's when you lose the connection that you start wondering. And then the third wave, though, is now, as everybody can move, everybody can, I call it the silent movement, because everybody can just hop on a plane and leave. And we don't even get to make a book out of that. I mean, there's no such, people talk about it statistically wise, but there's no such a huge noise that this is making, right? So, but what is going to be what's the future going to be for these towns? What's the future going to be for Casalbove, Paduli? I have tons of examples I can bring up to you. Well, the tourism itself, the tourism portion of my company has proven me to, he showed me how I appreciate the very little contribution I can make and give these towns and the people, of course, alike, coming back to their roots. And it's not just about the trip. It's about experience. It's about the opportunity to walk in your ancestors' footsteps, after all. And I just wish, again, that government knew this. I got ideas there that one day I'll throw at you a little more in detail, but there's simply a big enough knowledge and an interest that we should exploit more, and we should definitely offer as a country, offer as a bigger base to those who want to pursue this. Let me just add one thing. For those who want to really come and visit, we're offering still, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do this, but I am already. We're offering a little discount for Black Friday weekend. It's done, it's gone, but just for those who are watching this episode, I'm very happy to continue this and extend this discount up until Christmas and New Year's. So for the entire month of December, just for those who are watching, Bob Sorrentino's interview with me, I really thank Bob for being patient with having me today, finally, after years of trying to catch me. I'm more than happy to offer and pay my dues with the fact that I was so hard to be reached to give and giving 20% off our tours and any other services you guys are interested in. For sure.
Oh, that's fabulous. I'll put a little blurb in the blog about that too. And just to your point about the tourism, my mother's family's from Torito and Bari, and nobody even heard it, but there's a lot of Barets in New York, especially, and my uncle Giovanni, when my grandparents came, they left him there as a young boy. He didn't leave Italy with his family until 1950. Wow. He had never met his brothers and sisters, and he hadn't seen his parents in 35 years when he came.
That's wild. Huh.
Isn't that crazy? And they, he lived in the house that my great grandparents lived in. It's still there. Some of my cousins have gone back, so I'm really looking forward to getting back there too, because that's the other side of the family. The one side has all the aristocratic stuff, and the other side they were farmers from Torito, and completely different world. I never would have had a chance of meeting, except for America.
Of course. It's equally interesting though. It's different side, but it's still on a different level. It still intrigues you, and it should. I mean, it always should.
When I was going through the records, everybody was a contadino or Filatrese. Am I saying it right? A seamstress. And finally, I found somebody. I think he, like in the early 1800s, he was a forest ranger or something like that. I was like, oh boy. Somebody did something different in his family. It was really amazing. Well, this has been. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing I really want to add about it for, just because it's technical detail, but please do know. Well, it's for you and everybody else here when coming on the tour, because I get this question asked a lot of times, and there's tons of other things we should talk. And please have me on any other time if you will, if you want it. Of course, it's not going to happen in another year or two, but what I want to say about the tour is graveyards, grave sites, hard to find, hard to believe for you, but it's very hard to find tombstones and grave sites dating back to the 1700s and further back. There's never been a perpetual burial policy in this country up until the time that Italy actually became a country, right? Mm-hmm. And so now we do have a way to keep sites going as long as a family has enough money to run through and to pay towards that. But for instance, my girlfriend's father is going to be exhumed in a few years, just after the 10 years he died. And well, we're going to keep money in it, and we're going to put money in it, and we're going to put him in a mausoleum kind of thing. But back in the days, I mean, not such a thing was expected to happen all the time for all families. Right. We're doing this for now, we're doing it, but my family does it. My father actually is saying the same about my grandparents. It's just the way it was. So just know, we can't make miracles here for that. just it's not an happy note to end this conversation with, but just wanted to make sure it was out there for everybody.
No, that's good, and that's great for somebody to know. So, just give everybody the website, and I'll print it too. But
thank you. Well, so we are reachable or you guys can visit our website at www.bellaitaliagenealogy.com. I'm not going to, focus on how you guys spell genealogy, but I've seen U.S.-born people messing that up, unfortunately. So please write it out, Bob, for me. We appreciate that. You can actually find us on our Facebook pages at same namesake name. So Bella Italia Genealogy, as well as Instagram. There should be some WhatsApp number out there for those who want to contact me directly on the social media, just because I use WhatsApp every day, as a lot of my clients know, although I may be behind with a lot of messages that I deal with every day. So I do have other three great business members that I want to thank here publicly: Frederica, Justin, and Jeanette. And the family is actually growing. We also are going to have some specialists for marketing very soon up next year. And so, but please reach us at bellaitaliagenealogy.com website. We're going to make a free consultation for you, which means we're going to validate your data, whatever you have, just like I did for Bob, because we want to make sure that we can actually get the job done for you. And before doing that, we need to explore what you have and validate it and guarantee that we guys can attain some results for you, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks again. This has been absolutely fabulous and great to finally talk to you in person.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I can't even believe it happens until I see this video published. So thank you so much for this.
Okay, you're quite welcome.